Hi, this is Adolph Oliver, and in this video we're going to talk about graphing using intercepts. This is actually my favorite graphing method for linear equations because it's the quickest one for us slow humans that take a long time to do calculations. Anyway, this is the second way to graph linear equations. Remember, the reason they're called linears, the graphs are straight lines. And the key here is we're going to make use of the points where they cross or intercept the x and y axis. So for instance, we could have a line, say, that went like this, okay, and crossed here and here, okay. And then we would simply say this. What is the intercept point? Where does this cross on the x-axis? This, of course, is y here. Well, if we go over here, x equals -1, x equals -2. So we say the x-intercept equals -2. Now, the y-intercept up here, if it crosses at y equals +2, we'd say the y-intercept equals +2. Now, here's the thing to note on this. Anytime you have a point that's an intercept point, like this x equals -2, the value of the other variable is always going to be 0 because anywhere we cross this x-axis, and this intercept point could be anywhere along this, what's going to happen is all those x values are going to have y equals 0. So if we wrote this as a regular coordinate pair, I could say x equals -2 and y equals 0. Now, likewise for the y-intercept, which is up here at +2, any other y-intercept would be crossing the y-axis someplace, and all of those points have x equals 0 as a value. So I could write this as 0, 2, and that would be the coordinate pair. Well, here's the key to intercepts, and it's an important one for us to remember because we're going to use this, and that is whenever you're after one of the intercepts, like the x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis, the other guy is 0. So that means y is 0. And anytime we're after the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, the other guy, who is x, is 0. Well, that's a very powerful thing to remember. Let's show you how we can make use of it. Okay, here's an equation. 2x minus 3y equals 6. Now, here's the first thing on this. Let me write it a little bit bigger here. 2x minus 3y equals 6. Now, first off, the form you want the equation to be in to solve for intercepts is exactly what we've got here. The x and y on the left and the plain number on the right. When we were doing table of values, we solved the equation for y equals. Well, the intercepts are different. We want both x and y on the left and the plain number on the right. So if we're given it this way, then we go ahead and make use of it. If not, then what we have to do is rearrange it to get it in this way. Now let's point out to you why we want it like that. Here we go. Let's go get the x-intercept equals and the y-intercept equals. Now remember this, whenever you're going after the x-intercept, the other guy, the y, is 0. So if y equals 0, it's like this term is not even there. It's equal to 0, right? So we end up with 2x equals 6. Well, divide both sides by 2 and you get x equals 3. So there is the x-intercept. Now the y-intercept, you do the same thing, only of course it's the x that's 0. So if x is 0, it's like this term is completely gone. It's 0. Divide both sides by -3 here to solve for y, and you'll get y equals 6 over -3, which is -2. Okay, there are the two intercept points. So if you've got a grid, x and y, you simply find x equals +3, 1, 2, 3, right there. That's where it crosses the x-axis. And the y-axis crosses at -1, -2, right there. There that is. Now, you want to make sure that you get these points correct, because you're drawing your line just based on these 2 points, and they both have to be correct. But if you've done a good job with that, there it is. Intercepts is one of the fastest methods to be able to graph. Let's look at some examples now. Okay, here comes another one. This happens to be in our proper form here. We've got x minus y equals 2. Well, okay, let's see. I've got a little bit of room down below here. I'll write it a little bit larger. X minus y equals 2. And, of course, the x-intercept equals, and the y-intercept equals. Well, if we go after the x-intercept, y is 0. So that means this term is 0. It's like it's not there. What's left? X equals 2. We go after the y-intercept, the other term, the x is 0, so it's like it's not there. Now notice, to get y equals, I got to divide both sides by -1, so I'd have y equal to -2. Well, again, this is very hard to get the graph line faster than this. X-intercept is +2, y-intercept is -2, and now just draw your line. Make sure that you get these values correct. Okay, let's look at another one here. Yes, here we go. Okay, yeah, let's see. I changed the value on this. I got 4x minus 3y equals 12. Let me again write it a little bit larger down the bottom here. But again, these guys go very quick. 4x minus 3y equals 12. Okay, here we go. X-intercept equals, y-intercept equals. Okay, well, we go after the x-intercept. We know the other guy is 0, so if y is 0, it's like this term isn't there. So 4x equals 12, that means x has to equal 3. Y-intercept, the x guy is 0, so we can cover him up. Divide both sides by -3 to solve for y here. 12 divided by -3 is -4. Okay, well now, just plot these 2 points and we're all done. The x-intercept, 1, 2, 3, there it is. The y-intercept, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, there it is. And again, connect them up with a straight line. There you go. There's your graph. Okay, well, nothing is perfect, and there is the case here, and we're looking at it right now, where you can have a problem with the intercept method. Again, notice we've got the x and y on the left, we got the plane number on the right, but the plane number happens to be 0. So watch what happens. Again, I'll write it down here a little bit larger. 2x minus 5y equals 0. And we'll go get the 2 intercept points again. X-intercept equals, y-intercept equals. Well, okay. Remember, going after the x-intercept, you set y equal to 0. So 2x equals 0. Divide both sides by 2. Well, 0 divided by 2, which is 0. Y-intercept, you set x equal to 0. So you have to divide both sides by -5. Well, 0 over -5 is 0. And so you say, well, okay, I'm all set. X-intercept is 0. And you say, uh-oh, y-intercept is 0. This is the one case when you have a 0 on the right that you have problems with the intercepts method. And that's because what happens is the intercepts method, if it equals 0 over here, both the intercepts will be 0, and you don't know which way the line goes. Well, basically how you get out of this is you find yourself one table of values point. There are different ways you can do this. Instead of constructing a whole table of values, you could do something like this. take the coefficient that's largest here. Okay, this one right here. And let's say set y equal to 1. Okay. Now, what that's going to do is give me -5 here. Now, that, of course, is for y equals 1. Well, now, what I end up with is 2x minus 5 equals 0. Solve this for x here, and look what happens. We jump this over to the other side, and I get 2x equals 5. Now I turn around and divide both sides by 2, okay, and I get x equals 5/2, or 2.5 as a mixed number, which is easier for us to graph. So, the original problem we had up here, because of the 0 on the right, was that both the intercepts were at the origin, 0, 0 here. Well, just pick one of the variables to make one. I usually pick the one that has the largest coefficient. Okay, and so I set y equal to 1, and then figure out what that is. -5 times 1 is -5, so I got 2x minus 5 equals 0. Just solve what's left here for the x value. So we know then that we've got another point, x equals 2.5 and y equals 1. Okay, use that as just a regular coordinate pair. Okay, x equals 2.5. Here's 1, 2, 2.5 would be right there. And y equals 1, positive up. Okay, so there is the second point. Now we can use that origin we knew, and this second point, and there we go. So that's how you get out of the one case where the intercept method does not work perfectly. Just pick a value of 1 for whichever value you want. I usually pick the one with the higher coefficient, solve for the other guy, and it gives you an xy pair here, which then you can use to finish your graphing. Well, of course, here's another thing. Remember that whenever you get one of these guys, that you're supposed to plot on an xy plot, and notice we're given an xy plot here, so yeah. But one of the variables is missing. Then remember, it's very simple. You don't have to use table of values. You don't have to use intercepts. You simply say, okay, y equals -5. Where's y equals -5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's y equals -5. Now, just draw a line perpendicular to the y-axis at that point, and double check one thing. Is it true that every point on this line has y equals -5? Well, they're all down 5 below the 0 point here, so every point is -5. Well, then guess what? That's your graph line right there. So remember that these guys that have one of the variables missing are really very easy. You can just plot them direct. Okay, here's one last one to look at. And this is one of the ones where we got that problem with the intercepts again. Notice the equation up here is y equals 4x. Now there's no number, but I could put a +0 here. And then, of course, the other thing I have to do is get everybody over to the left side. So I can write this now as y minus 4x equals 0. Okay, well, we're going to have the same problem with the intercepts here that we had before. Both the x-intercept and the y-intercept on this are both going to equal 0 because of this 0 here. So, of course, we know that the line goes through the origin, but we don't know which way. Well, again, here's what I suggest you do. Let me rewrite our equation down here. Y minus 4x equals 0. Okay, now here's what I'm going to do. The x has the largest coefficient here, So what I'm going to do is set x equal to 1. You could use different numbers here, but the idea is to make it simple. Set x equal to 1. Your choice. But now, what that means, of course, is that this equals negative 4. So I have y minus 4 equals 0. Okay, well, go ahead and now solve that for y equals. Just jump the plus 4 over the other side, and you get y equals 4. So these are the two guys then that can give you a second point. We have x equals 1 and y equals 4. So anytime you get to this situation where you've got both the x and y intercepts equaling 0, this is how you get yourself out of it, this method. We have x equals 1 and y equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. Okay, there we go then. There's going to be our line going just like that.